Now, for the next Geisha album, there was a band like change, basically.
There was.
There were still two originals.
There was still Ken.
Yeah.
Ken stayed with me, and he was the only one, really, into the second album. And we brought in a new drummer, Brett Luton.
And why was that?
Well, Ken and I actually didn't think the band were up to it. We were moving along and we were making advances in the style of music, and we didn't think Peter, who was a brilliant drummer, we would love to have kept him, but he went anyway. And we were moving away from keyboards and everything, so Ken and I made a conscious decision to change the band to more of a guitar sound.
I was going to bring that up, actually. Why did the sound kind of change so much?
It was a conscious effort. We thought we were getting all this flack from particularly Sydney. You know, we were a Melbourne band. Everything did really well in Melbourne. Every time we went to Sydney, you know, we were heckled and you poofs, you know, with your hair. I said, you know, give me a break. What do you know? What's the problem? You have no idea how much we got heckled in
the funny thing
north
that
of the Victorian border.
Yeah, the funny thing I find interesting about a lot of Australian bands from that period, a lot of them started off dancey, synthy, etc. Even Pseudo Echo, they ended up turning to like a heavy metal band.
Same thing. I think, you know,
there's only kind of bands that's kind of stayed the sound that they has, probably Machinations. They stayed dance through the whole way.
Absolutely.
I'm talking kind of, they're kind of a bit of a different deal, I suppose. But
they also came a bit later too.
Yeah, but okay, so you basically kind of changed the sound because you wanted to be taken maybe more seriously, or
yeah, absolutely. You know, and the interesting thing was both Ken and I came from rock backgrounds as well, so we sort of started to get a bit bored with synth sound. I so regretted it later. You know, the whole second album, Midnight to Dawn, sounds ham-fisted to me now.
I really do love Calling Your Name, though. I think it's
thank you. Well, that's the only track on the album.
I was going to say, Calling Your Name sounds kind of like a typical kind of geisha kind of song.
Yeah.
Because I remember you did that on Countdown too. It was a brilliant performance, actually.
Thanks, man.
And you had that new kind of hair with a leather. That was a good look too.
It was okay. You know,
you're a stylish thing in the 80s.
With the hair.
Yeah, because it's a really good song. Actually, you did that towards the end of Countdown when it was about to finish. Probably the second or third last show.
That's right. Yeah. That's exactly right.
Calling Your Name on Countdown.
That was probably the second last single, I think, or one of the last singles off that album. And at that stage, you know, I was writing a new album again, which never got released on EMI. It got released much later. But no, that's right, Countdown. We played, I think we were on there, we did Never Tell You Why and Normal People. Was that still Countdown, or was that Countdown Revolution? Can you remember?
Countdown Revolution was pretty bad, but
The format.
yeah, I actually attended the shows quite a few times because it was free and everything.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I remember when Countdown Revolution started, the first one, I was like, this is nothing like Countdown.
Well, they had all these other
terrible
presenters. They had a cast like there was about 10 presenters.
And it kind of focused more kind of like on the dances rather than bands and kind of stuff too.
I agree.
And it was at the Metro.
And whenever a band came on, the audience always looked so bored. You know? Whereas in the old days, they used to rev them up and you know, get them excited.
But unfortunately, around the 87, 88 period, music started kind of, and the whole excitement, unfortunately, the whole creativity kind of, I reckon the creativity lasted probably to about 86-ish, and then it kind of got a bit manufactured, really. Now, apparently, did Rob Dean of Japan join Geisha for a while?
Yes, he did. He joined, we made the third album with him involved in playing guitar.
And how did he come about?
Well,
Because I'm a huge Japan fan, so...
Great band.
Great brilliant, band.
Yeah. Mick Kahn, you know, what an awesome musician.
He's really sick, actually.
Is he really?
At the moment,
That's awful. What's wrong with him?
I think he's got cancer.
Oh, no. They're all dying, mate. They're all dying.
They are. James Freud.
Oh, let's not talk about that. It's just too awful. Just too awful.
Yeah, so how did he come about?
Well, Ken and I had a terrible falling out at the end of the... midway towards the end of 1987, after we finished the album, we started touring. We just fought.
Actually, he still, even though like he went a bit rocky, he still had really
he still had big hair.
Yeah,
he still had huge hair. Oh yeah, but I think he was sort of going in the glam metal.
Yeah, he looked a bit glam metal. Yeah,
you know, that wasn't where I really wanted to go, and we had fights over it. And, you know, we just from being such good friends, almost brothers. You know, we was very acrimonious. And I moved on, and he left and took Brett with him, and I continued on with Geisha. So I brought Tom in, who was an old friend of mine, Tom Hosey. He used to play with James Freud in Berlin, and he'd been living in England with Rob Dean.
Okay.
And Tom said, "Look, I know you need a guitarist. Rob wants to come to Australia, and he's interested. You know, send us over the albums and see what he says." So we sent him over to see Rob Dean, and he came out and basically joined the band. And I started playing bass. We got a keyboard player from another ska band called No Nonsense.
Okay. They're an Australian band,
yeah. They were Melbourne and Sydney sort of members from all over the place that were signed to an arm of EMI, so it was kind of in-house sort of. And he joined. It was just a four-piece then, and we started touring, promoting Midnight to Dawn, which is bizarre because there was Ken and Brett had gone, but we still had to promote the album. And so we toured Australia and kept promoting it.
But didn't Ken play on some of those tracks?
He did. He played on everything.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They played on the whole album, but then they left, and we had a new band promoting that album.
Oh, okay. And then you did shows with the new band.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still promoting that album that Ken had played on. So.
Alright. And while Rob Dean joined the band, you were still doing stuff off the first album. Was that like both stuff?
Yeah. Well, you know, we were touring as Geisha, so we still played material off the first album, off the second album, and new material as well as we started putting a new album together. Okay.
And then how did the kind of the breakup of kind of happen?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Was it because of constant lineup changes, or
no? There were two major problems. Rob's working visa expired, and he had to go back to England. And for Rob, before he came out, he'd just finished writing and recording the first Sinead O'Connor album, The Lion and the Cobra. So he went back to receive a huge cheque for that, but had to go back to England nonetheless. You know, and we said, maybe we'll get you out again, but we'll see how things go. In the meantime, I mean, the company was now mine anyway, and even though they were members of the band, I owned all the debt of about $200,000, of touring expenses of hire and accom and travel and everything. And so I, basically ended up with this debt and folded the band and just let it go for a couple of years, in fact, until the early 90s, when we started fiddling around with the masters to the third album, and then later on, when we actually got the original band back together to do that concert at Mercury Lounge and Metro, of the 10th anniversary. But that's really the whole reason why we called it a day in the 80s, was debt and difficulties with Rob's visa.
Okay.